Thank you. So Jenny, I guess we can start.
Great. So welcome everybody to the second call on economic viability of farming, collective action network of the Global Coffee Platform. My name is Jenny Kwan. I'm the Deputy Director of Global Coffee Platform, and I'm happy to welcome you to this call where we're going to look at how this collective action network becomes more tangible and more actionable. And we've got some members lined up to share some of the their good practices and ideas on how to do it. As I mentioned before, we're using technology Zoom, and we've recently started using the Zoom webinar function to be able to show people, in order to be able to have people register and also get reminders and get follow-up afterwards. But we also noticed in the last webinar that we had for GCP that then the attendees couldn't see each other and people weren't able to unmute themselves or chat amongst each other. And in previous times, we've had quite some good chat. You can also use the Q&A function that's part of Zoom. So at least for this call, we're seeing what it's like to promote everyone to a panelist so that you are able to see who the other participants are. You're able to still raise your hand, and everybody's able to chat everybody else as well. So let's see how this goes. Any feedback on the technicalities afterwards would be welcome. And in the meantime, I'll hand over to Juan Isaza, who's the program manager for this collective action network, to take you through the overall process and timelines and the agenda. Over to you, Juan.
Thank you, Jenny. Here, Juan. May you confirm, Jenny, we are on. Can you see the presentation, the slides on the screen?
Yes, it's all shared.
Okay, great. So welcome everybody. Thanks for participating today. We have members from different sectors. We have some members from sustainability organizations. We have traders. We have certification or standard system organizations present and certification bodies. We have also finance participants from finance organizations. We have roasters and we have traders, of course, and that's it's a very good attendance today in terms of diversity of organizations. We're very happy to host the meeting today. As a follow-up to the last meeting in which we presented the results, or TechnoServe presented the results of a quick scan identifying opportunities, we would like to carry on today with a presentation from volunteers that kindly would like to share, to start breaking the ice and start sharing some actions, ideally that have worked from their side, and also ideally, potentially, if they can share, this might not happen today yet, but the intention is in a very short period of time to have sharing of proposals of joint collaboration so that as a platform, we can facilitate this process. We will have that. We will we have 4 interventions. We have Cássio from ACOP in Brazil. We have Marcelo Buriti from Nestlé. We have Camilo Sanchez from Holland and Alina Amador from Fairtrade, who have kindly offered to share. Each one will have a slot of time of 7 to 8 minutes. Let's say that's our ideal timing, and to share something and start to some of their experiences and start identifying where action is to take place. To start quickly, to introduce a bit and set the pace, we at GCP, we are on terms, we are an organization to facilitate all the efforts, the synergies and efficiencies that all the invest, and so that the sector in itself as a whole can save money and be more efficient working in sustainability issues. In that sense, we acknowledge and we want to make visible all efforts that are out there. There is a lot happening that your organizations are doing, and basically our vision here is to get alignment in terms of efforts, as this slide shows, there are many efforts in the circle to the left with the different dots and lines. We would like to see, and that's the vision of the GCP, of the Global Coffee Platform, more alignment as far as possible in order to be more efficient and move towards the UN sustainability goals. And in the coffee sector, the GCP Global Coffee Platform has, under that umbrella, defined 3 clear goals for the Mission 2020: farmer prosperity, thriving communities, conservation of natural resources. In terms of the timelines and the process, how we are moving in that direction, the idea, the first thing was a decision from a board of the Global Coffee Platform to work on economic viability of farming. Quick scan was, we asked TechnoServe to develop a quick scan in order to understand where high-level opportunities for actions and efficiencies would be identified. These developed during 2 months. Then we had a great event, very important event organized by FNC and the collaboration of other participants and in the sector, the World Producer Forum in Medellin in July. That was a key moment, and a declaration came out of it in relation to economic viability of farming, and we aim to contribute to that process, to that. The ball is rolling, and we want to keep that ball rolling and contribute to synergies in the sector. And that's why we have the last webinar in which the results of the TechnoServe study were presented, the draft results, which will be published as this week, and you, the participants of today's webinar, will be the first to receive the final version of this quick scan. Our intention with this webinar today and in August is basically to break the ice, as I was saying, have members and volunteers start sharing with us examples of things that have worked in terms of increasing income of farmers, or actions that come close to it to remove the obstacles to achieve this goal. And we have a next webinar on September 14th, probably the same format we have today. We expect to bring from our side a more concrete proposal than the one we are presenting in a few minutes, and then to have a very important moment in October 4th in the Global Coffee Sustainability Conference, where we would really like to highlight this topic, this theme of economic viability of farming, bringing in stakeholders, national platforms, and ICO together in a conversation around this topic, and a conversation that derives into quick action, that derives quickly into actions. So that's a bit the roadmap as we are seeing it today. In that sense, one of the things that is very important is to include in this discussion, where do we want to get? We look at farmer prosperity, and in this slide you can see the indicators that have been developed in the working group, in the collective action network that is developing the Sustainability Progress Framework together with the Sustainable Coffee Challenge. And these indicators, we have late outcome indicators and we have impact indicators that have been proposed to measure farmer prosperity. For these indicators, there is an example. If we look at this one, economic viability, which you are now seeing in your slide. It's about the purpose of the collective action network is, as mentioned, to achieve synergies. So we would really like to increase efficiency and effectiveness of investments. As mentioned before, your organizations, others that are not present today are doing a lot, investing a lot of money, and there is a case for working together and getting much more positive impact on the economic viability of farmers. we have seen the sector since Max Avelar started in Chiapas in the late 80s, early 90s, addressing sustainability issues. There has a lot been done by many of you, by many of the different actors. The low-hanging fruit, as many people call them, have been already reached. Many farmers have been certified in many different standards. But there is a need to reach further up into the tree, into the high-hanging fruit. And for that, we all know it's the most difficult part of the path. So we need to work together and basically keep in mind the main question is which action can be implemented by you in your context and who else needs to be involved. In a way, we are calling for joint collaborations. We want to be matchmakers and bring people on board to act together. One quick reminder on the quick scan done by TechnoServe. I took the liberty of taking from these quick scan some summary points per continent. Here, for example, in the slide you are looking at, I hope it's the one in Africa, in sharing in the screen I'm sharing. For the 4 countries in Africa, some specific actions were proposed, and I picked up some of them, mainly talking about production increase, potential to increase production by different actions. You can see, for example, in Ethiopia, rejuvenation by stamping, etc., etc. For Kenya, more training on good agricultural practices, more fertilizer application, and so on and so on. And we can look at the different studies. You have access to them through the website of the GCP Connect. For example, in Asia, we have for Indonesia and Vietnam, also for a specific target of farmers. Remember, we are always talking not of the countrywide, but we're talking about a specific targeted group of farmers. And there, for those specific farmers, we have high-level definitions today. And what we would like to see is the proposals that have been made under the quick scan. Could we get actors across the table to start identifying how, in a deeper sense and a more detailed sense, where we could join efforts and work together? In the next one, we see, for example, Latin America. Latin America, for the 5 countries there, we also see potential opportunities. And the question is, okay, we would like to see these opportunities being more detailed and transformed into action. And of course, there is a lot of detail to be introduced at the kind of sentences that I have just picked up from the quick scan by the different actors sitting together and defining that, what has to be done. So this is a call. These webinars are meant to be a call, an invitation to you to identify with whom else, and that's why Jenny has said we want to put you all as panelists and bring you to, you can see who's there. We also want you in October to meet and get together with us and identify together those actions in a quick way.
Sorry, I'm sorry, can I ask a question? This is Juan Antonio from
Mola. Yes, Juan Antonio Rivas, please, go ahead.
Yes, I wonder if it would be more effective and more a real call to action if the GCP Secretariat can prepare a specific action plan, a specific road plan with specific description of the steps that are required to tackle some of these problems that you just showed, and a tentative budget. And then based on that specific plan, I think it would be easier for members to probably say, okay, I can jump in, or I have this additional idea, etc. In my opinion, if you only present these, broad ideas that need to be worked on and ask people to, come out and say if they're interested, whatever. There's a lot of members in the GCP. I don't know how you can get real action started.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, Juan Antonio, this is Jenny. That's really good input for the conference, where we'll have representatives from most of the national platforms that we're working together with, because as you saw from the analysis, it really is country by country. So the GCP Secretariat can help facilitate this, but we'll put this as input to what the national platforms present. And we're in the middle of finalizing the conference agenda, and there's quite some time for discussion and presentation from the countries to the members. And there we would expect that it would be concrete plans with budget figures attached to that as well, which people can then opt into. Thanks.
Yeah, and meanwhile, we want to sort of start listening to what some volunteers want to say. Perhaps this can help us connect the dots and start a conversation and build a path. So I would like to start with giving the floor to our volunteers today who would like to share. May I provide an order? May I suggest an order, if that's fine with the others? I would like to invite Cássio Franco Moreira from the Brazilian organization ACOP, if that's fine with you.
That's fine, Juan.
Great. Let me look for the presentation.
Are you gonna make me a presenter so that I change it from here?
Yes, that's a good idea. Let me do that. Okay, Cássio, you are
okay. Okay, so hello everyone. Thanks GCP for giving this opportunity to contribute to the process. Thanks Juan specifically. So basically what I'm gonna share with you, it's an experience we have been having here in Brazil on training smallholders. Can you see my screen just to make sure? Where it says producer training project, can you see that?
Oh, I can still see Juan's screen.
Okay. Maybe you need. Let me see. Where are you? You can take the share. I think you can take the share.
Cássio, maybe you need to share your screen.
Okay, I stopped sharing. You can now. You should be able now to take the screen.
Okay. Desktop, yes. Okay, sorry for that. So.
Great, now it's working.
Okay, great. So let's, so basically this is a project that started 2.5 years ago. It's going up to the end of this year. So it's called Sustainable Technologies to Boost Productivity, Resilience to Severe Climate, Coffee Quality, and Livelihoods of Brazilian coffee farmers, mostly smallholders, but also some medium farmers. Our association, it's not only an organic association, we are widening the scope of the association also to deal with sustainability in general. That's what I'm gonna say here to you. So basically, we have this graphic where we show where we wanna bring producers. We wanna contribute so that producers move along the sustainability journey. So any improvement is beneficial, even though if you implement fair trade certification, organic, reinforced alliance, or even if you implement better practice. So this is the approach we are having with producers so that we bring more producers to the project. So basically, we are working in a region which is the south of Minas of Brazil, together with the São Paulo state. So this region produces more or less 14 million bags of Arabica a year. So this is slightly more than Colombia. It's the main region for Arabica in Brazil. And it's a region that also has a lot of smallholders. So basically, we are working with those smallholders, and these producers, they face a lot of challenge in production technologies and also on harvest and post-harvest technologies. And there are huge opportunities on this. So when Juan presented the opportunities for Brazil, I have already sent my comments to that because I think there are significant other opportunities for Brazil. So as you can see here in the first bullet, there is some overuse of inputs and also some wrong use of inputs. Most of the rural extension in Brazil is done by the companies that provide the inputs to the producers. So this has generated some increases in yields, that's true, but there is a strong conflict of interest in that relationship, and most of the time, producers use much more products than necessary. The second point is that there is a lack of government rural extension. The official rural extension that takes place in Brazil can only cover a small percentage of the smallholders. So there is a big gap where we are working and where other projects are also working. There is also lack of information on technologies that can be cleaner, can be cheaper, and can be simple, and can deliver improvements at the farm level. So we are working here in this field. We want to reduce the cost of production, reduce the impacts of the production, adapt to climate change, and also increase yields. And in the other bullet here, in the last bullet of those slides, we're also working on coffee quality. Brazil has a big opportunity to increase its participation in the specialty coffee market and the smallholders as well. So based on that, we gathered with a group of partners. So this slide here shows the project partners. So IDH is also a strong partner and funder of this project. So again, thanks IDH for that. We also have Simulevels, coffee and tea company from the Netherlands. We have several and also some farms in Brazil. We have also IWCA, the International Women Coffee Association, because the project has a strong focus on empowering women also. So with those projects, we moved them to the next slide, which shows a little bit what we have been doing. So the goal of the association is to innovate and promote sustainability in the coffee sector by disseminating smart, low-cost, clean, innovative, and efficient practice to producers. There are better ways to produce coffee, cleaner ways to produce coffee, and still have good yields. And this is the, let's say, the part that we want to tackle. There is a lot of need to reduce the use of herbicides, to reduce the use of pesticides. And we have access to those technologies that can be outreached and adapted to producer. So producer can still be conventional. I'm not telling them to become organic. That's not our approach. We wanted them to continue being conventional, but doing a cleaner process. That's the goal. So we have reached 2,500 producers in the last 2 years, the average of 5 hectares. And through that work, we're managing to get the environment more resilient to climate change, better environments. The coffees are also improving the coffee quality. We're having coffees with less residues of agrochemical. And that is also good for the buyers because you have a more stable supply. Your supply is less vulnerable to climate. You have a coffee that is accepted by the international levels of residues. We also have the women being empowered. And what we want at the end, our main goal is to have a higher income for the farmers and a better life quality for producers. So moving to the next slide, this shows more or less how we work. This slide with the pictures. We have some theoretical classes, but then we always go to the fields and then we exchange ideas with the producers. Our methodology of group training has just been validated and certified by the Banco do Brasil Foundation. Banco do Brasil is the main bank in Brazil that provides funding to the rural sector, and we have submitted our project there, and they have formally certified our methodology as a social technology, which means it can really move the smallholders towards improvement. So this slide presents a little bit of what we do, the content of the trainings, okay? I'm not gonna, you can read it later. So we deal with weed management, pest and disease. We deal a lot with soil quality. We also deal with how to organize smallholders into groups. Then let's move to the results. So this picture here shows one training. This training we were talking about shaded coffee, how to have shaded coffee in Brazil. And now this slide here with the graphs, it starts to present the results. So we have like 2,700 farmers so far trained, almost 500 women trained, 150 trainings have been done this last 2.5 years. And as we move to the next slide, we also show some of the presentations we have. They are available at our website. You can download those there as well. This is the interesting part also for this group. These 3 graphics, they present the economic benefits of the project. So some increase in the yields, some reduction in the cost of production, and also the amount of producers that are moving towards sustainability. Yeah? There are more producers moving towards sustainability, which means they are implementing the practices that we recommend. And then some more results. These I think are the most interesting. By having a better weed management, producers are using less herbicide. So in Brazil, producers use 4 or 5 times a year herbicide. Now they're using only once or twice. And now they have more soil organic matter. They're more resistant to the droughts. This is a very good result. And they're reducing costs. And we have producers increasing coffee quality as well and selling the coffee for a higher price. So what we want at the end is to improve livelihoods of the smallholders. And we do believe that clean technologies can also contribute to economic benefits. That's our approach, and we are having success on that. So this is the last slide. I'm sorry, it's full of wording. This is just an idea that we have to continue working along this line. So the project ends now, but we are bringing partners together to try to continue that project and increase the scope and also increase the impact, which means we want to move to 10,000, 20,000 producers, reaching 5 to 80% of the Brazil production. More or less the same approach that we have been having, but also increasing, including 1 or 2 new lines of action. So I'm not going to detail that. Please, if you can read that later, that's too much, and we need to leave room also for the other questions. So thanks very much. I'm going to stop sharing here so that Juan can take the lead.
Okay, thank you very much, Cassio, for that sharing. It's very important. I mean, to see what some of our members are already doing. For many of you, perhaps it's not new. Still, I think there is a value in having some sharing, and today's sharing as a first starting moment. It might be at different levels. We have not precisely one unified script for today's sharing. So with that, I would like to also ask you to test if you have questions and answers, to ask questions through the Q&A session if it works, or through the chat on one hand. And also, most of you should have received the presentations. If not, they will be available. I will be sending a link to those who participated. I would like to ask Marcelo Buriti from Nestlé, if that's fine with you, to share. You wanted to share without slides, mainly, I think verbally. So we really appreciate it. I will, I think simply you can unmute yourself and it should be working for you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Hi, Marcelo.
Right, okay. Hello, good morning, good afternoon to everyone.
We hear a bit softly, so maybe you can either come closer or speak louder to the mic.
Is it better now?
Much better, yes. Thank you very much.
Okay, all right. So good morning, good afternoon to everyone on the call, and thanks for organizing this. Of course, economic viability is the crucial point for everything related to the future of coffee. So this is a subject that we need to have very high on the priority list. Let's say there is very little that I would have to say on top of what was already shown and the results of the study that was done by GCP recently. That study, I don't think it brought any piece of new news, let's say, from the experience of everybody in this call. But it's always good to have a fresh look and fresh numbers to consider. I have a couple of topics that I would like to suggest as areas. One would be an area of pre-competitive action, which for me is a very clear one. Is related to supply chain efficiency. One of the areas that there is a lot of gains to be made in terms of farmer income is in some countries that the farmers receive a very low percentage of the FOB price. Looking at exports, the local supply chains are a different matter, but supply chain efficiency normally involve either government policies or more targeted infrastructure investments. And of course, this varies from country to country. We have countries that farmers receive, I don't know, 50, 60, 70% of the world's of the FOB value. In other countries, farmers receive even 105% of the FOB value. In the case of Vietnam, sometimes the farmers get more money than the FOB value, which is for me is the most efficient supply chain that you can ever think about or see. But in many countries, there are areas of improvement. Of course, because of topography, because of the way that farmers sell the coffee, the intermediaries that are there in terms of milling, in terms of transportation, there is an inherent difference from country to country. But having said that, there are a lot of efficiencies that can be gained nevertheless. There are sometimes it relates to a good maintenance of particular road work. Sometimes it is even more efficient distribution of inputs would make a difference. It's not only to bring the coffee out and to process it, but also to make, let's say, fertilizers more let's say more readily available, or to improve the distribution of these inputs so that farmers can have access to them at a cheaper cost as well. So these areas of supply chain efficiency for me is a very clear-cut case of pre-competitive work that it would be very beneficial for the sector represented by GCP to have a say or a voice in recommending public policies or recommending specific investments. Again, a country by country, very targeted approach. potentially even partnering with the ICO in terms of bringing those suggestions, those calls for action, let's call it like that, to government representatives in this sense. So I mean, it's a very high fruit. I mean, it's not low hanging, but I think it's one that is inherently pre-competitive to talk about. So this is one point. The other point that I would like to bring to this call is related to the methodology, let's say, of funding things and bringing ideas into action. Coming close to what Juan Antonio was mentioning before, and this is something that we're thinking. But if there would be a mechanism that would allow crowdfunding of ideas, if it would be, it's a little bit along the lines of what Juan Antonio was mentioning. If there would be a way of channeling ideas, channeling innovation, let's say, or proposals for developing something in a way that that will be brought to the GCP members, then the GCP members or external, I don't mind. Money has no color or no religion. So in that sense, either GCP members or externals, that they would be able to chip in. They would be able to say, you know what, I believe in this. I'm interested in seeing this, how it develops, and then but let's say someone would not have the money to fund that on its entirety, but would be happy to put in some funding to that. So that we managed to get crowdfunding, let's say, of these activities and getting them off the ground. Of course, some of them would fail, some of them would succeed, but even in the ones that failed, the important thing is the lessons are learned, and the sector, all this would be brought back to the sector in terms of learnings. But even on failed initiatives, if you take the right lessons, then it becomes useful as well. So I mean, these are two topics that I would like to bring in terms of again, improving economy for farmers in particular countries on a pre-competitive basis, and on methods of bringing ideas into tangible actions and results from a funding point of view.
Thank you very much, Marcelo. That's very, very rich input as well. And I think it connects, as you have mentioned, with Juan Antonio's fair call to be more concrete and to put some more concrete content into what we would like the sector to move towards. There's clearly an aim from our side to provide direction and clarity. And I think these calls are very helpful in that sense, and we want to really move quickly there. So supply chain efficiencies and methods to crowdfunding certain ideas based on a prioritized set of ideas as well. Okay, so now I would like to invite, thank you very much, Marcelo, again, and Casio again. I would like to invite now Camilo Sanchez from OLAM. Good morning, Camilo. You are in the States, I think. No?
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon for some. I'm ready. Can you let me share the screen?
I think you can. I stop sharing now, and you can take it off as you are in panelist mode. You should be able to share your screen. So Camilo is our third speaker today, so we appreciate as well, Olan, for joining in.
So can you see the screen now?
Yes, very well, and we hear you well as well.
Okay, perfect. So thank you for the opportunity to present. This is really great for us to show GCP and other stakeholders what we are doing, how we see the development or the application of resources, and how we can move forward with this. Since we don't have much time, I'm going to go quickly through my presentation. And the presentation is about what we call tailor-made approach for a better economic viability. And this work has been done in Uganda. We have had several partners working with us in that effort. IDH, IITA, CIAD, and others have chipped in or put forward some activities on that and some opinions on that. We worked with around 800 farmers, 780 something farmers in the region on Mount Elgon in Uganda. And what we are trying to do in economic viability, and of course this is the subject of many forums now, is how to bring economic opportunities to our farming communities. And oftentimes what happens in the farming communities and in the international donors and in the industry in general, when we apply resources to the supply chain, is that we use one unique approach, considering the challenges of the farming communities as one single challenge. Economic viability of farmers requires consideration, a more wider consideration than just applying resources in an across-the-board scenario. It's difficult to ignore that many profiles of farmers that we have in Africa, of course, is very evident, that differentiation or that diversity of farming communities, but it's as well applicable to Asia and Latin America and other places. So what we want to get at with this work is how we allocate resources to our farming communities in a more efficient way. And it's what we have called the clusterization or the differentiation of application of those resources. We have, for example, different settings in the farming communities that we have to assess and evaluate. OLEM has gone a long way in collecting information from our farming communities. We have our systems in place, and those systems are allowing us to collect information that is very useful when it comes the time to provide development assistance or sustainability assistance to our farming communities. We have also diversity in the gender. Gender is another of the areas that GCP is touching on, and that has to be considered as a part of the equation, because it also matters how the gender distribution is in a community and how that community may receive the assistance that we are providing. We base this analysis, of course, this is the crop diversity at the farm level. Every single farm has a different crop diversity and different, based on different sizes and different configurations, and therefore that farmer or crop diversity provides more or less income to the farmers or farming community. As we look at more and more parameters, we increase the diversity amongst the farmers, and therefore it's more difficult for us to provide an effective or efficient use of our resources. And this is important, because when Marcelo presented one of the areas on efficiencies, this is what we are looking for in providing that support to our supply chain, how to be more efficient when we analyze the factors such as the farm size, the gender composition, the crop diversity, the age, and many other parameters that may impact the way we provide our resources or our support. the common approach, as I said before, is one size fits all. That's I mean, and it's not news to us, but has been proven that it's not the right approach. And however, many international donor agencies, and I'm coming from one of them, try to frame the provision of resources within one single approach, which makes it more challenging when you try to access those resources and apply those resources to the farming communities, as well as the development banks and even the same companies. When spending the resources, we try for the sake of practicity and facility and easy practicity and the easiest way to provide resources, we try to comprise everything in one single block. And what happens with that is that produces limited impact on production. The resources are diluted within the communities. When we provide credit, for example, the increase in indebtedness of farmers is more. There irregular adoption of good agricultural practices because, of course, the differences mismatch between farmers' expectations and production outcomes. So the expectations of the farmers oftentimes are not met when we provide the assistance, and that is very discouraging for the communities. Increased default rates when we provide loans. And of course, the end is a loss of trust between the partners and the communities and the private sector. And last and not least, but the most important, speaking about economic viability of farming, is the very limited return on investment for the companies implementing those actions, and for the farming and farmers doing the development actions. Over the past 2 years, we have enforced the adoption of our information system to collect information on our supply chain. We have covered those 784 or 5 farmers that we have collected are coming from our intensive work through our information system and collection of information. That has given us enough information to do what is called the cluster or segmentation of our farming communities. And we have come up with different approaches to those farming communities. And we have set different scenarios to test our hypothesis. Of course, this has not been finalized yet, but we are working every day to adjust the model and to see how it is more efficient. And on that line, I want to say that every single situation is very unique, and you may be working in the same Mount Elgon area in Africa, and you may find that the scenarios that you have to provide for that assistance is different than the one that you have previously applied in a similar region, because the diversity of the farming community is very broad. So what we did was to set 4 scenarios. Each of those scenarios, of course, require an input, distribution, and service delivery. We decided that the 4 scenarios will be based on, first scenario will be based on each farmer gets the same input package. So that's, as we define it, it is easily implemented, but the effectiveness of that scenario is very low. The scenario 2 is inputs are distributed based on cluster and coffee farm size. The implementation of that is relatively easy, and the impact or effectiveness is higher. And the third scenario is input distributed based on cluster yields. That, of course, is relatively easy to implement, and the effectiveness is also high. And the fourth scenario, which proved to us to be the most effective, was the input distribution based on clusters around the adoption of good agricultural practices and other factors. This is, however, the most difficult scenario that we can face, and therefore some may be reluctant to do it because it requires a little bit more of investment in the value chain and a little bit of knowledge or more knowledge of the value chain, and deploying that assistant on a very cluster-based or segmentation-based way is very difficult. So that's why many just frame that within just one size fit all. But the results for that are very high, and not just in terms of the return on investment for the farmers, but also in terms of the return on investment for the company. In this case, for Olam, when we do input distribution or when we provide loans to the communities, the results or the return on our investment is much higher when we can really analyze and put that activity into a much cluster way. As I said, responses show better rate of return for both us and the partner. When I say the partner, it may be Olam. It may be Olam along with a donor organization. It may be Olam along with a roaster client. So it is much better from any point of view to do a cluster and a segmentation analysis. And oftentimes we have to recognize that this is going to be costly, that this is going to require more time, that the amount of information that we have to gather from the field, which is what I mentioned before, is I will say is very large, and you have to sit and think about the different scenarios that you can potentially face and make a decision. Not necessarily all scenarios are going to be best outcomes for both. In some scenarios, the outcome may be best for the farmer than for the partner implementing the activity. But that's what we have to balance at the end, and in order to provide, to be efficient in our provision of services. Since this is I will say the bulk of the discussion right now in the coffee sector, as we saw it in Medellin with the declaration of the producers. I think this is for me the backbone of what we have to do. We have to really be able to identify and be able to custom made the assistance that we need for our communities. And I think that's all. I hope I was clear in such a short period of time. Open for questions.
I think you were very clear, Camilo. Thank you very much. Very illustrating. Allow me to postpone a bit the questions. You could diverge them. We can collect them through the chat, if that's fine, for time considerations. I would like to again thank Camilo. I think that was a very interesting presentation, and invite Alina Amador from ThirdFit International to present. She's our last presenter today. She has some slides. I think then Camilo, if you can stop sharing. I think
I did.
Okay, thank you.
I did already.
Alina can take up.
Okay, hello.
Yeah,
thank
please.
you, Juan. Good afternoon, good morning to everyone. Okay. So I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see, we can hear you well. So if you could, time is a bit running, so if you could try to be to go to the point.
Yes.
Thanks for listening.
Try my very best. Thanks so much. Thank you very much. Thank you, Juan, for the introduction. So I think I will quickly go through my slides in the next 5 minutes, hopefully. So as you can see, I'm part of the standards and pricing team here at ThirdFit International, and we embarked in this project in understanding a little bit more of what the coffee farmers' income is looking like. We wanted to build up knowledge here internally, also to have input to share with the international community as this platform. And for that, we needed to develop a methodology to assess farmer income, something that could be practical and hopefully scalable to other origins and also replicable, right? We work together with a consultancy company, True Price from the Netherlands. We worked in 7 countries in Africa and Asia. You can see here some of the key sample information. Just important points here, we are covering Robusta and Arabica coffee. We collected information for 1 year for the harvest period of 2014-2015. And we included here 465 individual farmers from 12 small producer organizations in these countries. Tanzania, Uganda, India, Vietnam shared information with us on Robusta coffee production, and Kenya, Rwanda, and Indonesia shared information on Arabica coffee production. So this is some of the key data. Just to highlight a few points here, we can see something on the specialization in average. Farmers and and farmers in Tanzania and Indonesia and Vietnam, in average, were dedicating 100% of their farm to coffee production. And in other countries such as India, Kenya, Rwanda, more or less half of the farm was used for coffee production. Around half of the farm. So we can see here what the coffee specialization is in different countries. So we are talking here about very different contexts. We also can see here something about the average yields. In some countries, we have very low yields, very high yields, as the cases of Indonesia, Vietnam. But definitely that is something that we need to look at carefully, because we're only collecting data for 1 year, which could not be taken as well, we cannot say that it's taking into account the complexities of coffee production, biannuality in the cases where it is relevant. So we also need to take with a little bit of care with this information. Another important point here to highlight is the total sales revenues from coffee, which means to what extent the revenues from the farm, all that is produced in the farm. So we're talking about coffee mainly, but other sources of income from products that are coming from the farm are important there. But we can say that Indonesian farmers, Vietnamese farmers are depending highly on the income from coffee, whereas other countries such as Kenya and India are depending much less. As we can see here, 30%, 36% in these countries, whereas Indonesia is 97% and Vietnam 79%. One important point here for us where fair trade is looking at where can we contribute to improve the income of farmers is to improve the market. The market development for fair trade is very important. Kenya, where a very small percentage of the coffee is sold under fair trade terms, we can improve that, or we can try to improve that so that the farmers benefit from being part of the fair trade community. So these are some of the most important points in the sample. Here I want to share a little bit with you on what was the model that we used, the main variables that were included in the model. So we can see that we're talking about overall household income. So we're not only talking about the coffee production, but we're also talking about the income that is coming from other sources. So we have to acknowledge that we are including here off-farm income, for instance, activities that are paid for, wages, for instance, or other sources like remittances. We're also accounting for in-kind farm income. We're accounting for revenues and expenses. And the most important contributor, which is financial farm income. And this involves not only the income coming from coffee, but other goods that are produced in the farm and other sources that can be from other farms that are owned. These are the most important. You can look at that later on in more detail. And here are some of the most important results. So first, what we learned is that on average, 50% of the farmer household income is coming from the coffee production. That is more visible in the cases of Vietnam, of Indonesia, of Tanzania. And in other countries, like in Rwanda, other sources of income, also financial, are very important to the overall composition of the household income. That financial farm income is from sales of other agricultural goods. Other important sources of farm in cases like India and Kenya are very important, and that is mainly due to wages from other activities that are performed by household members. So we see a very wide, very diverse situation from this assessment. If we look at the overall household income per country and we compare it to a living income benchmark where we have it available, we see that in the cases of Vietnam, Indonesia, and India, farmers are able to achieve living income benchmark. Just a quick note on these benchmarks. These were part of studies that were carried out independently from this study, but they were taken and included here to put the data into context. So we also need to take these results, these points into consideration. The only country where we see a big gap there between the living income benchmark and the current income situation is in Kenya. And here we will look a little bit more into details where this is coming from. If we look at the situation of only coffee profitability per country, we see that in the case of Kenya, farmers are working at a loss. They're making a loss from coffee production. These are average. This is important to mention. So we can also foresee that there's a little bit of high variability between the results. So not all farmers are making such a big loss, but many farmers are even making a profit. In the cases of Vietnam and India, we see that the profitability for coffee is not enough to reach a living income. One important point here is that we're looking at kilos of dried cherry for Rwanda, Tanzania, Uganda, and India, Kenya as well. And for Indonesia and Vietnam, we're looking at kilos of parchment. In the case of Indonesia, it's important to highlight that this would be the only country where farmers are able to reach a living income just with the coffee production. So the income that they earn from the coffee per kilo of coffee allows them to reach the living income estimation. The case of Tanzania is also interesting to highlight. Tanzanian farmers reported high profitability, but perhaps this doesn't reflect on high overall income because of low yields in this country. And this is something that I spoke as well with the people there from the organizations in Tanzania, and they reported that indeed farmers were facing difficulties in terms of production and yields overall in that year. This in terms of coffee profitability. And another interesting result, so maybe for this one we might need another webinar with a little bit more detail to share more on this with you. But what we wanted to see is not only to assess the situation of the individual farmers and of the household, no? How able are they with the coffee production to achieve a living income, but what is the situation of the workers? So if we take the value added, so that would be, if we take the profitability or the profit plus the labor remuneration, the labor costs, if we take the sum of those two values and it's divided by the full-time employees in the farm, we can assess if the farmer is able to earn a living income and if it's possible for that farmer to pay a living wage to its workers. We're assuming here that the living income and the living wage are equal values, or at least are close, so we can assess this. In the case of Indonesia, we see that farmers are able to achieve a living income, but and also to pay a living wage to their workers. I don't know if there's a pressing question or something there.
We could, Alina, thanks for asking. I think we could also, because of time reasons,
yeah.
If it's okay with you, I know you have taken this from a study and the study is available. Maybe you would like to mention. Well, we shared your presentation, and in your presentation there is a link. So
correct,
yeah.
Correct. Perhaps I just jumped into the last slide, if you don't.
I think you logged out or you stopped sharing, but
no.
Have the presentation, and I will be sending it so they can see the link to the website where you have the complete study.
Okay, so just allow me to finish then. What would be the next steps for Fairtrade with this information? No, because this would be important to understand what is the takeaway from all this. So first of all, and I think this also resonates with the others, is that it's not a one size fits all, and there will be some tailor-made pathways to improve income, considering coffee production definitely as the main source of income, but also taking into account the realities faced for the farmers who also need to take into account other sources of income. Definitely setting a specific targets to progress towards a living income. So definitely the need to have the proper benchmarks would be necessary. Further research that would be definitely needed to understand the causal relationships between some of the variables that were identified in this study. There's also some work being done, holistic living income strategy that is being prepared here for Fairtrade and its members, containing areas such as market development, improvement of yields, farm efficiency, and as well as a component of advocacy, which would mean that we can engage, or we would like to engage with other organizations that are also aiming at reaching these goals. So definitely we appreciate the opportunity to share these inputs in this webinar, and we're looking forward to discussing this further with other interested organizations. So I think this is from my side, but definitely share this presentation, Juan, and people can access the full report on the website.
Thank you, Alina. Thank you very much as well to Casio, Franco, to Marcelo Buriti, and to Camilo Sanchez, and to Alina Amador for sharing their experiences and input. Today we have had a varied kind of sharing, which we like, and we are preparing just to share with you the next steps. I think this is a very nice input and preparation in our way towards the conference on the 4th of October. We want to keep the momentum created by the World Producer Forum. We want to provide the platform for input and new inputs to be brought to the discussion, and we want, as well as Juan Antonio was mentioning, to be able to draft quick proposals where people can step in, and in that sense, as a quick roadmap in terms of time, we have prepared a second webinar or a third webinar for 14th of September. We would like to bring other actors bring probably an inventory of priorities, ask you to join your national platforms, especially if they are working on the EVOLVE or the economic viability of farming, and join us at the Global Coffee Sustainability Conference in the 4th of October. Today, this week, we will be publishing and sharing with you the results of the quick scan high-level results there. And we really appreciate all your patience and your participation and interest here. Maybe a quick, we have collected the questions that are in the chat. I don't know if there is a specific comment somebody would like to make. Otherwise, we will be closing as we are 30 minutes over time. But the floor to any of you who would like to mention anything at this point.
Juan, just a quick one. This is João Moraes from IARA.
Yes.
Para el primer dashboard. Lo otro es número de PO por país. Pero no sé, ya tenemos.
Excuse me, there is someone unmuted. Yes, Juan, if you allow me, can you hear me?
I hear you.
Okay.
But I'm not Juan. I'm not Juan.
Yeah, no problem.
Go ahead, João.
Yes, thank you. Just a quick comment. Thank you very much for organizing this webinar, and I'd like to congratulate all the participants. It was very interesting to see the ideas shared, and I think very much enriched the webinar session. I think I just have one comment. When I saw very quickly the slides that Juan presented, and I saw the Brazil impact there with modest yield increase potential. I think there is potential for much more on what is made in Brazil and what it was presented from the smallholder point of view, with a yield around 1.6 tons per hectare, when we already see producers achieving much higher yields with consistency. And of course, this yield increase has to be connected to profitability. It's not only producing the higher yields, having the best agronomic balance without watching the economic. Of course, the economic. This is the name of this collaboration action. But there is room for much more, and I saw a very good example from a cooperative last week in the region of Paraguaçu, and where fair trade farmers are having much higher yields around 2.4 tons per hectare, and there are smallholders as well. So I just would like to leave this comment and congratulate again all the participants.
Thanks, João. Thank you very much for that. We will definitely pick up on what you have mentioned on the study. I think, as mentioned, those are high-level results, but we need to go deeper into them. And I think we would like to welcome you and look into that topic bilaterally and see whether we include that in the September call already. We also invite others who might be interested to give us, to help us drill into a more action-oriented list of topics that is very much welcome. With this, I would like to say, give the floor to Jenny again, and thank all of you very much, especially those who shared. Jenny, please.
So thank you very much, everyone, for your participation. We hope that you're planning to come and join us in Geneva or engage in the national platforms before the conference in Geneva, and we are planning to come out with some concrete action plans from there where we can all move forward together. So we will definitely be having webinars after the conference as well, for those of you who can't make it to Geneva on the 4th of October, but we hope that as many of you can make it. So thank you very much for your participation today. Thank you for the questions and the extensive comments in the chat. I think this is the start of a really interesting discussion, which will lead to further action in the countries. Thank you very much and have a great day.